guys, welcome to the Friday Waffle, and it is indeed Friday night. It is 7 minutes to 7 on Friday, the 15th of November 2019. Now, before I can start, some of you might have noticed that I took last Friday's Friday Waffle down, and the reason being was I was talking about some personal stuff which a few you guys very kindly told me, look Alan, you're being a bit of a dick, you shouldn't be talking about this kind of stuff online, you don't know who's watching. And you know what, I didn't really give it any thought. I think the thing for me is, excuse me, when I do the Friday Waffle now, I understand that it is out there on the internet, so basically anybody at all can be watching it. You don't know who can be watching it, anyone at all. But when I'm making the Friday Waffle, I am really just talking to my mates. I'm talking to the guys that watch it. The Friday Waffle, although it's my longest running feature, I know for a fact that it does get probably the lowest views out of any videos that I do. Now, the reason for that is it's pretty simple, I would imagine. The Friday Waffle tells you absolutely nothing. I mean, what kind of a video do you call the Friday Waffle? It means nothing. Nobody is ever really going to stumble across the Friday Waffle. I think it's one of these videos that somebody's going to have to either say to you, why don't you watch this, or you come along to my channel because of something else that I've done, and then you happen to see what the Friday Waffle is. So I think because it does have quite, I mean, views wise, I think it kind of peaks about 180, which, you know, it's not a huge amount, but I suppose that's still 180 people watching it. And the thing is a few people have mentioned, you know, you don't know who's watching it. So yeah, I was a bit of a twat, being a wee bit too open with things last week, so that was the reason I took the video down. I thought, yeah, you know what, you're right, I'm being a twat. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit last week's Friday Waffle, and I'm basically going to chop off the first, I don't know, 15 minutes of it, and I'm just going to peg it at the end of this one, so that if you didn't get to see it, you'll get to see the non-personal stuff, if that makes any sense. So yeah, apologies to people who were going to watch it and simply couldn't find it. I know Ian Hunter, and Down the Rabbit Hole Kev, both of them didn't know what had happened. So that's what it was. I did actually send Ian a personal message saying, or I did ask him to send my personal message, and I would let him watch the Friday Waffle. I've just sent it as a private link. But no, what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to chop the personal stuff off, and then add it on to the back of this one. So it's a double whammy you're getting today. Although if you've watched it from last week, if you're lucky enough to see it before it was taken down, then call it a video nasty. It was banned and it's since been removed. So listen, I say this every single week, but down to starting a new job, I wouldn't say it's taken its toll, but it's taken up. I've had a lot to pick up in 2 weeks, and I simply haven't had the time to do any sort of game playing of any shape or form. We were supposed to be going to the computer club this week, and it was cancelled because a few people weren't able to make it, which was a wee bit annoying because it was cancelled on the night, literally an hour before I was due to leave to go to the computer club. It was cancelled, which kind of annoyed me a wee bit because, you know, I think anyway, I'm not going to get into that at the moment. So what I'm going to do is, like I said, I don't have any computer-y stuff to talk about at all, so I'm just going to batter straight into the comments. So kicking things off, Ian Hunter: hi Alan, I can't seem to find the last waffle, so I'm using the earlier one. A question for the impending waffle: I have memories of blowing into carts to get them to work, and sitting through a 10-minute C64 load only for it to reset back to the startup screen. What are 3 of your most teeth-gnashing hates from the 8 and 16-bit era? There are quite a few to choose from. I never actually had a gaming console, so blowing into the cartridge thing was not something that I had to ever do. So yeah, from the 16-bit era, what would be the thing that annoyed me? I mean, one of the things that annoyed me was you would look at a game, you would pick a game up, you would look at the cassette inlay, and it would have the most amazing graphics, and you'd be like, wow, that looks fantastic. And it would say in the back of it, other screenshots from Atari ST, other versions may vary. So in other words, they were putting these amazing screenshots on the back of Commodore 64 games, Spectrum games, knowing full well that that version was not going to come anywhere near as good as the one in the back. So to my mind, that was very, very misleading. They're basically selling people a game, saying, oh, look how amazing this is. However, it might not look as good. You know, it's a bit like somebody selling something on eBay, knowing full well that it doesn't work, and they just put down untested. You know, so yeah, game companies, publishers that would put out a game, and they would either put the arcade graphics in the box, or they would put another version. When that happened, it would usually set the red flag flying. You know, you think, you know that the version's going to be crap. I'm sure there was some games that were really, really nice, but for whatever reason they chose not to put the screenshots on. But I would always be wary of a game that decided to put like an Amiga, the Commodore Amiga version on the cassette box. That's one of them. Obviously, the loading on the C64. Now, I was a C64 owner right at the very, very beginning. 1983, I think it was, I first got my C64. And believe you me, it was literally, it could be 15 minutes to load a game. But then somebody told me, I can't remember who it was, one of my mates told me that apparently the Commodore 64 would load the game twice. I don't know why it did that. It was kind of like to verify it. And sometimes if you timed it correctly, you could actually let it load so far, press run stop, and then run it. Or do list, and then you'd get the SYS, which is a poke, I think it was, machine code poke, and it would jump to a part of the memory. So you could sometimes do that, but that didn't work all the time. But yeah, obviously the loading of games became a ball ache. Saying that, when you were used to games taking 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes to load, when the turbo loaders came along, waiting 5 minutes didn't really seem like an issue at all. Nowadays, people expect games to load instantly. But it didn't, you know, I felt spoiled when the turbo loaders came along. I think it was Nova Load. I think the very first game that I ever bought that had turbo loading was Revenge of the Mutant Camels. I think that used Nova Load. I think Nova Load was that developed by the same guy that did Encounter? Oh, I don't know if Paul Wokes actually designed the loader. But yeah, Return of the Mutant Camels, I think, or Revenge of the Mutant Camels was the first game I think that I bought that had a turbo loader. So when turbo loaders came along, I was quite happy. I thought, excellent, you know. And then as they started to evolve, you got the amazing music. I mean, Ocean, they had the fantastic Ocean loader. It was Martin Galway, and it kind of, I think there was about 4 or 5 different versions of the Ocean loader. It was like remixes, but it was an amazing tune. It really, really was. So that made loading a game enjoyable. So yeah, the loading I wouldn't say was really a big issue. The one thing that annoyed me was, well, obviously multi-load games. Now, they didn't really become a thing until the games became more complex, whether it was an arcade conversion or whether you had games like Target Renegade. A lot of the Ocean games, you know, amazing graphics, they became turbo loaders. So yeah, having turbo loaders was a pain in the arse. For me personally, I had a 1541 disk drive. So loading from a disk was, well, it didn't bother me. It was a joy because you didn't have to mess about rewinding tapes and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I could only imagine playing like a game like Summer Games on tape. I mean, my mate had the Spectrum and he had to reload and rewind and all this kind of nonsense, and I thought I could not be arsed with that. But then it was the same with the C64. The one, and it was only one game I can remember this by. The one game that this annoyed me was Karateka by, was it Areola Soft. Now I believe, was it Jordan Mecher or something his name was. He wrote Karateka, then he went on to write Prince of Persia for the PC, and was it the Apple II maybe? I can't remember exactly. Jordan Mecher, I think it was called, or he was called, I should say. But Karateka was this really nice, it was a sideways scrolling beat 'em up. You know, you played a kung fu master, Shaolin monk, whatever it was. I don't quite know what you were meant to be, and you basically had to rescue your girlfriend who had been impounded by the evil king or whatever. And it was an amazing game. It was a really nice game, but the one big thing which I hated about the game to passion, it would take a long time to load, and if you moved backwards you would instantly fall to your death, and you had to reload the entire game again. You couldn't just press start to continue. And because of that, I played the game a handful of times, and I never went back to it because it was just a complete and utter ball ache. So yeah, games like that, basically tape loading, because it was slow, you know, I didn't mind waiting the 5-10 minutes to load a game and then that was it. But games that you had to constantly load, I don't think I would have really got on. That's why I got a disc drive, because I could not be arsed, you know. And then obviously disc drives, they had turbo loaders as well. So yeah, I think that's kind of about the pet hates. As far as the 16-bit era, I would probably say, Ian, for me, I mean, the tape loading, it wasn't tape loading, it was disc loading. I think the thing for me that annoyed me was the early games. They seemed to think that they could sell a game and put amazing graphics and digitized music, so you'd maybe get some kind of like, you know, digitized rock track, and it would have amazing graphics, and the gameplay was total shit, or the animation was crap. Prime example, Crazy Cars. Yeah, I mean, listen to this and see what you think. Yeah, exactly. Nice graphics, nice static graphics, really nice sound. You know, you think, wow, you know, when you're getting used to playing a Spectrum and you've suddenly got this real live music, then you think this is going to be amazing. But as it turns out, the game was absolutely pants. So yeah, early 16-bit games, they just seem to think if they give us good graphics, they don't have to bother with gameplay, and that's why some of the 8-bit games versions were actually better than the 16-bit games. Prime example, well, I was going to say Buggy Boy. That's not entirely true, because Buggy Boy I thought was quite good in the 16-bit, but the C64 one was really good. But there was definitely some games, I can't think off the top of my head what ones or where the 8-bit versions were actually better than the 16-bit one. But anyway, listen, Ian, thank you very much for your question, buddy. Colin Jones, Weekend Waffle, just joking. Yeah, that's because last week's Friday Waffle didn't actually come out until Sunday. I was busy on Friday and on Saturday, and it never came out late. And then when it did come out late, I took it down after 2 days. So yeah, lesson learned, Alan. As far as I've had a few people saying I should call it the Weekend Waffle. You know what? I'm not going to do that, because I suppose I look upon the Friday Waffle as being a USP. People know what the Friday Waffle is. So if the Friday Waffle happens to come out a day late, it's still the Friday Waffle. I'm not going to call it Saturday Waffle. I'm going to stick with the Friday Waffle. I'll always try and do it on a Friday where I can. So it's going to stay on a Friday unless I have to move it. As I always say to anyone apologising for the lack of videos, real life comes first. You have to be ready yourself before you can make decent videos, and if I forced, you'll get. And if forced, you'll get fed up and stop altogether. Absolutely, Colin. I mean, I was talking to Lacosa the other day there, and he was saying the same thing. I basically apologised to him about not getting in touch because we've got a couple of collab videos that we want to do. But I've just told him, we work at the moment, I just want to concentrate on my work, and then when things start to settle down a wee bit, I'll get back to doing YouTube. I did do a couple of videos last week, and I think I put out one yesterday. What was it? It was not Behind Jaggy Lines, it was Rescuing Fractalis, that's what it was. Now, rather interestingly, one of the guys, I've not got his comment here, I mentioned that it came out in Atari and it was called Behind Jaggy Lines. Now, the reason I know that was because Jeff Minter spoke about the game Behind Jaggy Lines. It was in one of his Lamasoft letters, and he was basically saying this amazing game for Atari, Behind Jaggy Lines. Now, I can't remember who it was that commented, but basically it was Behind Jaggy Lines was it was the name given to it when it was being developed. Now, apparently it was pirated, and it went out there. It completely went out there. Everybody was copying it. And what was quite funny was, this isn't funny, but when they did eventually release it as Rescuing Fractalis, the game did not sell that well in Atari, and that was because most people already had it on, they had Behind Jaggy Lines. And apparently the developers of Rescuing Fractalis on occasion would have people come up to them and say, "Oh, I absolutely think I love that game Behind Jaggy Lines," and basically they were telling the publishers that, yeah, I've got a copy of it. So apparently Behind Jaggy Lines was never released. That was the sort of development name it was given. So yeah, there you go. I didn't know that. Behind Jaggy Lines was never actually released. That was the name it was given when it was being developed on Atari, and then it was eventually put out as Rescuing Fractalis. But by that point, everybody in Iran had copied it for the Atari. So an interesting little anecdote there. Let's see. The shout out is very much appreciated. Yeah, I did give Colin a shout out though. I'm going to put his link down below again, because obviously the fact that I took down the Friday Waffle meant that the shout out was effectively null and void. So please go and check out Colin's channel down below and subscribe if you want. Blackpool is a definite target for next year. I've already spoken with my better half about it. Good stuff. Bristol is just around the corner, so that's also possible. Waffle, yeah, I was basically talking about play Blackpool, hope to get down there next year, and yeah, I want to get down to, in fact, one of my mates, Phil Spriggs, who was in my Nerg video. Phil he's not quite the world record holder, but he's like one of the top 3 Robotron, I think he's the world record holder at Defender. Anyway, Phil contacted me a few weeks ago, or just about a week ago I think it was, to say that there's a group of them going down to going down to Arcade Club in February. So, and he's asked me if I would like to go down, and I've told him I would. So, what I'll do is once I get more details, I'll let you know. But I'm happy. If you guys can't go down then, I'll probably be looking to go down again at some point, because Arcade Club is awesome. I was there a few years ago. It's really, really good. So I'll let you guys know anyway. But yeah, it'd be lovely to see you down in Blackpool, Colin. Waffle question from Colin. We all know what you think of the N64 controller, but what is your favourite all-time controller or joystick for any system? Well, what I'm going to do, I am going to actually show you it. So just bear with me. There we go. Right, see if I can get this bad boy out. This is like, I'm sure there must be somebody who comes out at night time and basically just puts all the wires into one big massive mess, because you could not physically do that. I don't know how, if you put 3 or 4 things with cables together, within overnight you instantly become just one almighty mess. Oops, so easy. Right, here we go. Just going to hide that a wee second. Now, as far as joysticks go, people talk about the QuickShot 2 Kempston joystick, whatever it is. I mean, I've not got one there. Ah, there we go. I mean, this is a nice joystick. Oh, hang on. That is a lovely joystick. Can you see that? I never actually had one of these back in the day, but it's kind of my go-to joystick now. But the joystick I had back in the day, and I still like it, is this bad boy. It's called the Wickle Boss. Now I saw that it was a little computer shop that I used to go to. I'm trying to get it in shop. I used to go to the computer shop in Livingston, and this was the joysticks that he sold. These came all the way from America. Wickle apparently was a really, really big name. The thing is, it feels more like an analog stick. Look at the play in that. So, you know, there's a lot of play, and it's probably not the ideal joystick for, you know, Commodore 64 games, excuse me. But it was solid. It feels solid. It's got a nice base you can grip, and it's got that just feels so good. Plus, it's got the little button on top. So that was my go-to stick back in the day. Now, my favourite gamepad, this in second place. In fact, where is it? Where did that go? Oh, there it's right in front of me. I mean, I do like the PlayStation. That's PS4. That's got a nice pad. But I've always got a soft spot for the Xbox 360 one. I just think it feels really, really nice. It really does. That's a cracking joystick. But I think my favourite gamepad would have to be, if I can unravel it. Just for how light and how good it feels is this. Now, considering the N64 controller in my mind was shite, this was the next console they brought out, and they then went on to make, in my opinion, the best one. You've got the Wavebird, which was basically the wireless version of this, but it just feels so nice. It's got the nice clicky shoulders. It just feels so good. It really, really does. I like the GameCube controller a lot. So yeah, probably the GameCube controller would be my favourite gamepad, closely followed by the Xbox 360. And then, like I said, the PS4 is really nice as well. But yeah, the Wickle Boss for joysticks would be my stick of choice. So anyway, Colin, thank you very, very much for the question. Scott Breon, most of the Spectrum games I would love to see ported to the C64 happen to be more modern games. For example, I would love Steve Snake to port over Horace and the Robots, for example. Yeah, I did speak to Steve about Horace and the Robots, and I said, would there not be any way of, you know, doing a really good Berserk for the C64? And what he told me was the Spectrum had the same aspect ratio, the same resolution. Was it 340 by 240? I can't remember, don't quote me on that, as the arcade, which is why Horace and the Robots looks so good. Whereas the C64 unfortunately has the double width pixels, so getting a game to look as good as the Spectrum would be a lot more difficult. So that's the reason he hasn't done it. It wouldn't really bother me too much about him doing that, because Horace and the Robots, it's just an absolutely sublime version of Berserk. It really, really is. Skeletor the Supreme, question for your next waffle. Speaking of all those mini consoles, do you think an Amiga or ST Mini would do well? Now, I think I've been asked this before, Skeletor, if you don't mind me calling you that. There was a thing called the Armiga, ARMIGA, and it's effectively an Amiga Mini. I bought one, and the reason I sold it, I mean, it was something like 130 quid, and I sold it because I could not get the picture to align properly. It was kind of cut off. Now, I tried it in I think 4 or 5 TVs that I had, and the picture was cut off. So I ended up selling it to Chris Wilkins, Chris who does all the Fusion books, and he had it for a short space of time and sold it as well. So that was kind of what I would have thought would be a mini Amiga. Yeah, mini Amiga. I'm quite sure there is a market for it. Again, similar to the sort of the computer versions of these. You really, really, really need a keyboard, and for the Amiga as well, you know, mouse-based games, you're going to need an analog kind of thing. So I'm sure it will be something that might come out at some point, because obviously the Amiga was absolutely massive. But we can only hope, and the same with Atari ST. The Atari ST, I don't believe, was as popular as the Amiga, and for these things to really be worthwhile making, there's got to be a lot of backing, you know, because they must cost a lot of money to produce. But you know, with things like RetroPie, you can quite easily, you can put a Raspberry Pi as effectively a mini console, albeit it's running maybe 10, 20 different systems all at once. But you know what, never say never. I'm quite sure we will see an Amiga Mini somewhere along the lines, because it seems that everybody in their auntie are bringing out a mini console of some sort. So anyway, Skeletor, thanks for your question. Ye oldie gamer Steve, great waffle, and please mate, no need to apologise at all. We understand, we are here for you, even if you only put out one video a year. So don't worry about being a bit late or not putting anything out for a week. We understand. Thank you very much, Steve. I do appreciate that, and you know, I'm very, very lucky that I've got a good bunch of people that watch my channel. You know, and that's why I always like to be really open and honest, but I think sometimes you can be a bit too open and honest, and I think that's what I did last week. By the way, it's nothing exciting. There's no controversy. I was just talking about some stuff which I probably shouldn't, because like I said, you don't know who's watching. Anyway, about Pikmin, that is the only Nintendo game my wife will play. She adores it and has beaten 1 and 2 many times. She was hoping for one for the Switch, but it doesn't look like it's coming. I completely agree with your wife, Steve. Pikmin is just awesome. Absolutely awesome. Has she tried Pikmin 3 on the Wii U? I have got it. My daughter and I played it for a wee bit, but I've not went back to it. But the first Pikmin and the second Pikmin are just awesome. I would definitely go for the second one, because the first one, you've got a really, really strict time limit, which makes it harder than it needs to be. But the second one is just awesome. It's an absolutely fantastic game. I was really hoping that they would bring out Pikmin for the 3DS, because the twin screen using the little, you know, the little touch screen, that would just be the absolute perfect platform. So if Nintendo, if you're watching this, please, please, please bring out Pikmin 4 for the 3DS. Thank you. So anyway, listen, thanks for your comments, Steve. Wee Bob, great waffle, and thanks for your lovely comment on my artwork earlier. You do get a sort of mention in my most recent speed art on the side of a building. Anyway, as I'm sitting listening, I am playing emulated Mega Drive games with my PS1 Classic controller on a small CRT TV and loving it. Question for next week is, what controller do you prefer to use when emulating, and could you let me know if the Mega Drive Mini controller can be used with a PC emulating? Hope the job was a bit easier this week, and I fully understand. Yeah, things are good in that. Regards the Mega Drive Mini. Well, you know what? Let me do a quick Google. I'm not actually too sure. I'll just have a wee look. Let's see. Does the I can't even type properly. Mega Drive Mini Pad work on a Windows PC? I would be very surprised if it didn't, because yeah, why would it not? Because I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a USB. Does the Mega Drive? It actually helps if I type properly. Windows PC. Let's have a wee look and see what it says. Sega Drive. No, that's talking about a turbo controller. I don't know if this will actually tell you. don't know. Right, listen, Bob, to be perfectly honest with you, buddy, I don't know. Simple answer is I don't know. What I will do, though, is I will check it and I'll let you know. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. Though it might not. So let me check it and I will definitely let you know. What do I use? Well, I've actually showed you the two sticks that I use when I'm 99% of games that I play on, whether it's emulators, whatever. I just use this because it's wireless, it's comfortable to use, and obviously you just use that for the sort of the joystick. But if I can be arsed and the game works for the classic 8-bit or Amiga 16-bit, I use this thing, and I use one of these, which is basically, it's a, well, you can see there, it connects to the that, and then it plugs in, and that basically allows you to use a proper 8-bit joystick, not 8-bit joystick. It allows you to use an Atari joystick on a C64 Spectrum game, whatever, which really makes it, because the big thing for me is I don't like really playing 8-bit games using like a SNES pad or whatever. I just don't think it works particularly well, so I'll always try and use that. But yeah, that's why I use, that plus the Xbox 360 controller. So anyway, listen, Bob, thanks very much, buddy, for your comments. And a couple to go. Panther UK. Yeah, I think for 99% of users, the Spectrum Next we're talking about will be used to run old Spectrum games, which is great to protect the old hardware, but not using the system to its full potential. That's probably what I'm going to use it for. But the way I look at it is this, Chris. I look upon the Spectrum Next as a brand new Spectrum, which should hopefully last me for many, many, many years, and it's going to allow me to play all the classic games. And that's why I do like the mini consoles, because you're getting a new bit of hardware which you can then use to enjoy all the old games. Excuse me. Much like the most used command on a Commodore 128 being Go 64. Yeah, talking about, yeah, obviously the Commodore 128 was pretty much used to run, excuse me, I've got Windy Pops to run C64 games. Anyway, for the very next waffle, what Commodore 64 games have graphics that still impress you to this day? A game which featured in one of the games that I don't like, it's Uridium. I'm not a big fan of the game. I just find it too hard. But the graphics are mind blowing. I mean, they really are. The graphics on, the graphics on, what do you call it, Uridium are just incredible. They look amazing. It's silky smooth. The bit that impresses me the most is when you get a little spaceship that turns up, and then your ship comes out, and then it just goes, and it just flies off the screen, and it's almost like a motion blur. It's so fast. So yeah, Uridium from a technical point of view looks astonishing. Other games, graphic wise, I mentioned them a few weeks ago. Summer Games 2. Look at the triple jump, or the triple jump, or Beachhead 2, when the guys are running and climbing the wall. Just amazing. They really are amazing. Yeah, an Impossible Mission. I mean, the animation for the wee guy, although I think the robots are a bit pants, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think they're probably the three games that I find most impressive. So anyway, listen guys, it's probably slightly shorter than normal, but I'm going to bring this waffle to a close. Stay with me if you didn't watch, or you didn't get to see the Friday Waffle from last week, because I took it down for reasons that I've already mentioned. I'm going to include a butchered version of that after this, so hang on and watch it if you didn't see it. If you have seen it, then you can stop this video right now. So anyway guys, I will hopefully try and get a live stream out maybe one day next week, maybe try and go for next Sunday, something like that. We'll see how we go. But I will try and get some more videos out, over the weekend and into next week. So anyway guys, have an absolutely fantastic weekend, and as always, thank you very, very much for watching. Magnetic. Right, first one is from Batman. Excellent waffleage as ever, sir. For a future waffle, what old systems do you think have aged well today and what systems have dated really badly? I think for me, I mean, I like the old systems. You know, the games. I still play 8-bit games, so games I wouldn't really say have dated badly, but some of the systems, the way they portray the graphics, the way they look on modern TVs. I mean, I suppose that the obvious one for me is, which I've mentioned a lot of times, is the N64 and the PlayStation. In fact, probably that generation, the first sort of generation of consoles, i.e. PlayStation, N64, Sega Saturn, these were the sort of pioneers of polygons, you know, sort of three-dimensional graphics. So you had stuff like Tomb Raider, some of the driving games, all these, they were groundbreaking, you know, from what we'd seen before. They were like the first generation of the current kind of games we play now. And back then, I mean, you look at something like Tekken. Back then, I was absolutely blown away with how amazing Tekken looked. I was amazed at how amazing, you know, how good Tomb Raider looked. They were just incredible looking. But you go and look at these games now, you try and play the original Tekken, and they look shit. You know, as far as I'm concerned, they look shit. So I think that generation of consoles and games in particular, the original 3D type games, I don't think they've aged particularly well. I wouldn't really play them now. They look clunky. I mean, you look at the original Virtua Fighter. I remember seeing that in the arcades, and even, I suppose if I'm being honest, even I remember seeing it in a cinema in Edinburgh. I don't know what it would be, 1992, 93, something like that. And I remember thinking how the graphics did look basic, but it was still jaw-dropping, the fact that this was kind of like a three-dimensional game. But you look at that now and it just looks awful. It really, really does. Saying that though, two-dimensional games I don't think have really aged because they've never really changed. I mean, we went from most early computer games were two-dimensional, side-scrolling, whatever it was. You know, they were two-dimensional games. Then when we got to a point where consoles could do 3D games, i.e. the PlayStation, we suddenly went from playing things like, I don't know, you know, Manic Miner, and then next we were playing or Sonic the Hedgehog. Then we jumped to stuff like you know, Tekken, Tomb Raider, and people didn't want to play two-dimensional games. So two-dimensional games nobody ever really took them and evolved them, gave them better looking graphics, because I don't think you would really gain anything by it. And here we are in 2019, they're bringing out games, two-dimensional games, but they're using the pixely, 8-bit pixely look. So two-dimensional games still play fine as far as I'm concerned, but the early 3D games I think haven't aged well. But so for that reason, I don't really play the PlayStation. I know there are two-dimensional games that you can play in it, but any 3D games in the PlayStation, N64, even the Sega Saturn, I don't think they look good at all. I never really play them. I can't think of any that I do play. I mean, I've not even got my PlayStation plugged in. I couldn't tell you the last time. I've certainly not played it in over a year. So I suppose with that in mind, I'd have to say the PlayStation I don't think has aged particularly well. I do use my Sega Saturn a lot more because it's got some fantastic shoot 'em ups. So that's plugged into my TV. I do use that a lot. Other systems, I mean, I suppose if I'm being honest, some of the really early systems, I mean, the ZX81 I never actually owned. Would I play a ZX81 game? Probably not. I would maybe play it for the purpose of making a video, but I don't think I would ever sit and play it for fun. Atari 2600. Again, because I never owned an Atari back when it first came out, I don't have any nostalgia for it, other than the only game that I did get to play, and it was on my mate's one, was Pac-Man, and I will on occasion play the original Pac-Man. I know it's a game that a lot of people, they say it's one of the worst games ever, which I think is complete baloney. So I will still play Pac-Man, but I don't think I would ever really fire up the Atari 2600 to play, to sort of pass half an hour. I do play the Spectrum, I do play the Commodore 64, I do play the Atari ST, the Amiga, so really anything from the 8-bit forwards I still do play. Yeah, there's games that I was a massive fan, when I first got them, stuff like Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee would be one of my fondest memory games, it really was. But I play it now and I just find it overly simplistic. So I don't think that's really aged all that well. Whereas, Drop Zone, Pipeline, still play them all the time. But yeah, the N64, as I've said before, it doesn't look very good on modern TVs. So maybe if they do bring out an N64 Mini and they make the picture look better, I'll start using it again, I don't know. But I would say the first generation, sort of, is it the 32-bit generation, I'd probably say these plus the very early computers, ZX81, Atari 2600. In other words, it's the very first generation of the original computers, ZX81, 2600. I wouldn't really play now, and then the original 32-bit machines, I probably wouldn't play now. But yeah, anyway, Bat, thanks for the question, buddy. Robert Morrison, I watched this a few days ago. Was this the one where you were talking about the Mega Drive Mini? Anyway, there is a way to turn on the scan lines, at least on mine, which is a Genesis Mini. It's under Settings, Display, CRT Filter. Now actually, after I made the Mega Drive Mini, it's not a review, look at thing, I have had quite a few people saying there are CRT lines. That was the only thing that I was marking it down for, was the lack of CRT lines. So I'm going to go in and have another look. So I might have, I think I did mention that in the video, I might have just not actually found it. But generally these things are quite simple to set up. So I'm going to have a look. So yeah, it could well be that the Mega Drive Mini does indeed have a CRT filter. Ye older gamer Steve, great waffle, thank you. Question, I'm quite sad that my favourite ZX Spectrum game, Minder, yeah, obviously you've got the little, is it Dennis Waterman character by DK Tronics, didn't come to the C64, although there was a port in the making. What C64 game would you have liked to have come to the Spectrum that didn't? If I'm being honest, Steve, I don't think if I liked a game in the C64, I don't think I would have probably looked upon a ZX Spectrum port as being a step backwards. I mean, my favourite C64 games pretty much were ported. I mean, Beachhead was ported. I don't think the Spectrum was a patch in the C64. Drop Zone was never ported. Pipeline was ported, but again, it's not the same game. So I can't really think of any game on the C64 that I would have said, oh, I wish there was an Atari, a Spectrum port. There was plenty of games on the Spectrum that I would have probably liked to have seen on the C64 though. Typically, I can't actually think of anything offhand. Yeah, I don't think there's any game at all, Steve, that I thought, fantastic game in the C64, I would love to see that in the Spectrum, because the Spectrum and the C64 were two completely different machines. They both had their own strengths, they both had their own weaknesses. Because there's some blinding games in the Spectrum that were ported to the C64 and they're just not patching the Spectrum one, and conversely, there was a lot of games on the C64 which were brilliant, and then they moved them onto the Spectrum. I mean, Impossible Mission, Beachhead 2, all things like that, you know, they just weren't as good. So I can't really say any, if I'm honest. There's lots of good C64 games which probably never did come out in the Spectrum, which would have been nice for Spectrum owners, but being a C64 man, I don't think there was any I could really think of. But anyway, Steve, thanks for the question, mate. Stephen Thomber, top waffling champ, question for you. With the current fad of mini consoles, what do you reckon are chances of getting a mini ZX Spectrum, mini Atari 800 and mini Amstrad CPCR? Well, there've already been numerous attempts for a mini Spectrum. I mean, we had the Vega, which I wouldn't really class it as a mini Spectrum. Yeah, it played Spectrum games, but it had a wire. I suppose all these machines have wires. That's a bit of a daft thing to say, Alan. Yeah, the Vega. I don't have a Vega. I'm not a big fan of. I don't know. I just don't think the controls are really going to lend itself that well to the Spectrum. Also, apparently, out of the 1,000 games that were on it, there was only a handful of any games you'd want to play. There was loads and loads of padding that they put in there just to try and bring the 1,000 games up. So, yeah, I don't think the Vega's a particularly good mini Spectrum. And then, of course, there's the whole charade of the Vega 2, which people, was it 500 odd £1,000 has been lost, and only a handful of people have actually been given the machine, and apparently it's complete shit as well. I think the fact that the Spectrum Next is going to be coming out shortly, I did get an update email a couple of weeks ago. I think they're now on the home straight. I think they're now just looking to get all that. I think they've finalised the keyboard. They're just basically pulling everything together. So I'd imagine we'll probably have our Spectrum Next before Christmas, hopefully. So to my mind, that's kind of going to kind of steal any thunder that any Spectrum Mini was going to take, because the Spectrum Next is fully compatible with the Spectrum, plus it's a new computer as well. And I think if it's they are looking to bring out what do you call it? I think they are looking to manufacture more Spectrum Nexes. So I think if it turns out to be popular, I don't see there being a market for a Spectrum Mini. They might well do. I mean, was it Elite? I think it was brought out. They brought out a recreated Spectrum. The only problem was it was just a Bluetooth keyboard. It didn't have any. It was just a keyboard, and you connected it to like an emulator. So if they'd just gone the extra distance and put a Raspberry Pi inside and banged an SD card in it and you had all your games, then that would be a Spectrum Mini. I don't think you'd really want to make the Spectrum any smaller than it was. I mean, you know, unless of course you go down the same route as the 64 Mini where the keyboard doesn't work. So you could use the same. I suppose technically the Spectrum Vega was the same as the 64 Mini, but I think really computers do need keyboards. You know, it's all very well using virtual keyboards, having to hold buttons down and use the gamepad or the joystick to move across, but you feel like you're lacking something. So I'm not sure if a Spectrum Mini is ever going to be a thing. Atari 800 Mini, again, I don't know. I just don't think that the Atari 800 was popular enough in the UK to really warrant one. I don't think there's a demand for it. Yeah, Atari 800, I just don't really think that the Atari is popular enough. The thing is, for these things to work, you need to have a lot of people interested. I mean, the Spectrum had a massive following. So, there was always going to be people wanting to see that. The same with the C64. I just don't think that in the UK there's a big enough fan base of the Atari to warrant anybody actually making one. It would be nice, I would love to see one, I really would. And the same goes for the Amstrad. That was kind of the same. I mean, the Amstrad was probably a bit more popular than the Atari was in the UK. But again, is there a big enough fan base? Thing is, if you get the GX4000, which was basically the console version of the Amstrad, there's some really, really clever guys who are actually converting Amstrad games to work in that. So you could technically say that the GX4000 is already ticking the box as a sort of Amstrad Mini. Yeah, you could bring out an Amstrad Mini the same as the Commodore 64 and Spectrum, but again, I'm not convinced that there's enough people would buy into it to actually make it a thing. But you never know, Stephen, you never ever know. Thanks for the question, mate. And back to my old mate Kevin down the rabbit hole. Hi Alan, I have a I can't pronounce this, philosophical question for you. If you owned an original Game Boy when they first came out and you cherished it as a kid, but then you modified it with a new screen, new buttons and a custom painted faceplate, is it still your beloved Game Boy? It's hard to say. It's hard to say, Kevin. I mean, I did own a Game Boy when it first came out. I bought one when it very first came out, and I sold it because, again, I was just needing the money for something else. I don't know. Maybe because I don't have any original machines, I don't have that connection. I don't have the nostalgic connection to any of these sort of things. I mean, I don't think there's anything. The only thing that I've got, which was an original, and it was my teddy bear. I got a teddy bear when I was born. So the teddy bear is 52 years old. My daughter uses it, and a few years ago it was in quite a bad shape, and my sister kind of tidied it up for me. So I mean, I do have a link. I've got a love for it because it was my thing. It was what I had when I was a baby. But I don't think I've got any. I don't have any other toys or anything that I had as a kid, so I don't really have any real nostalgia for things like that, so I can't really, it's hard to comment. I mean, I've got lots of, obviously, ornaments and things that, that belong to my mum and dad, which I keep because, they were my mum and dad's, and, you've got that tie to them. But as far as toys or computers or anything, I mean, I'm trying to think what my, and this says a lot. My oldest console that I still have would have to be the original Xbox. It's sitting over there. Everything else has been bought since. I mean, the original PlayStation 2 was sold to fund the Xbox. The original PlayStation was sold, so every other console that I've got has been bought in the last, 15 years. Everything else, like I said, has all been bought new. So yeah, that's an interesting thing to actually think about. Yeah, the Xbox is my oldest console, which seems a bit daft considering how much stuff I've got. I do have some of these little handheld games, which I had back in the day. I mean, I did have one, a Pac-Man one, and I actually sold it because I never used it. And part of me thinks that's quite sad that I sold it because I got 20 quid for it. But yeah, I don't know, it's hard to tell how I would feel. Personally, I probably wouldn't mess about with it. If I had an original Game Boy, chances are I'd probably just keep it and buy a new one. So, secondly, do you ever play any point and click adventures? No, not a fan of them at all, Kev. The only ones I ever played back in the day would be, I didn't like Monkey Island, didn't like any of these at all. I did play was it Police? Oh, what was it called again? It was on the PC. It was also in the Amiga. Police something or another, not Police Club. What was it called? It was by the same people that did Kings something or another. I can't remember. It was the guys that did Leisure Suit Larry. I did play Leisure Suit Larry. That was like an adult adventure. Yeah, when you look at it now, it's as tame as anything. Then there was Police. I can't remember what it was called. It was a point and click. But that would probably be the last point and click game I ever played. I just never got on with them. I didn't like them at all. I didn't have the patience for them at all. So, do I ever play any? Not at all. Not at all, Kev. Thirdly, I'm always on the lookout for any GameCube suggestions. Do you have any favourites? I don't play many GameCube games. What ones that I do play? The original Burnout and Burnout 2 series, both racing games, they were really good. I always thought that the GameCube versions were the best. The Star Wars games, I can't remember what they're called, Rogue Leader or something was it? I can't remember exactly. They are really good. They do look, even now they do look incredible. They look really amazing. And it's, when you consider their old systems, they do look good. I do have a soft spot for Mario Sunshine. I know a lot of people never really... Mario Sunshine was the Mario game that not a lot of folk didn't actually like. I think because it did get criticised quite a bit for the sort of poor camera angles. There was times where you were in a position and you couldn't really make out where you were trying to go because of the camera kind of moving about. But I actually like it. Me and my daughter used to play it quite a lot. I've not played it for a while. And the other game, Pikmin, absolutely. Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2 are Castwall classics. Stonewall classics, I should say. Castwall, they are absolutely brilliant games. You've got to play Pikmin 1 and 2. Anything else? I'm trying to think. On the GameCube, I mean, there's not the Mario game, there's a Zelda game. The Mario Kart is good. That's a really good version. Can't think of anything else offhand, but yeah, these are some you could definitely go and check out, Kev. Oops, a daisy. And fourthly, hang on, close that. Fourthly, I discussed a bad Superman game recently, and I'm curious if you have found any good Superman games ever. I'm not a Superman fan. I'm really not into... considering I'm a geek when it comes to games and what have you, I'm not a sort of a superhero person. I don't really like watching any of these films. I've never even seen... I think I've seen the first Superman. I don't think I've seen any other Superman, so there you go. So nah, I'm not really... I don't think there's been any superhero games that I've found particularly good. Nah, the only one that I've obviously played was the one that gets panned, and that was on the N64, but sorry Kev, I haven't. And finally, have you heard that someone discovered a homebrew game for the Commodore 64 hidden on a 1980s record LP? I do know what you're talking about, Kevin. That's not exactly true. It's not a game. It's just a text message. It's in fact all I've done, I think, is quote 2 lines out of a couple of games, out of a couple of songs. There's there is a video out on YouTube which I watched, and basically, as you say, at the very end of the record, somebody, I can't remember what the group was, it was a kind of rock group. There's basically the noise. They've actually put out this sort of program at the end of the record. Now this guy very cleverly recorded the tone onto a tape, and then he managed to sort of transfer it across, or he recorded it and then he transferred it onto a tape, and he eventually successfully loaded it into C64. And it's not a game. It's actually quite dull. It's just basically 2 lines out of quotations. I think there's an Albert Einstein, and there's another quote as well. That is it. It's not very interesting, but it's quite clever that they've done that. It's an interesting story, but it's not a game, unfortunately, Kev. But it's pretty cool. A nice sort of cool little bit of sort of nostalgia. So thanks, Kev. Next up, Milfy Swinbuckle, great waffle as ever and good luck with the new job. Question, obviously going to the arcades in the 80s, late 70s and early 90s are some of my best memories as a young whippersnapper. I imagine this is the same for you, so do you regret that the later generations will never experience that same thrill that the arcade generation felt when walking through the doors of some dingy, unexplored amusement arcade? Or am I just being a bit of a miserable old fart who bores the poor younglings to death with stories of better times when he reminisces about days long gone? Nah, you know what, you're absolutely right. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get to go to arcades that often because where I stay in central Scotland, there was no arcades really nearby. The only time I went to an arcade would be when I went to college in Bathgate. We would go to the arcade at lunchtime and play a few games. There was quite a big arcade, through in Edinburgh, but I didn't go to that often. But obviously when we went down, my mum and dad never really took us to Blackpool. It was their idea of hell. Maybe they had taste actually. I mean, to me, the only thing that I liked about Blackpool back then was arcades. My mum and dad obviously weren't into arcade machines, so we never really got to go. But I did go on a few occasions. There used to be an after school club in the summer holidays. They used to have a day trip to Blackpool, so me and my mate used to meet up. You get the bus down to Blackpool and you'd spend the whole day. But yeah, there was something really, really special about walking into an arcade. You just didn't know what you were going to get. You just got completely overawed with the lights, the flashing lights, the sounds. All the games were competing for each other to get you to put money in, and it's hard to really explain just how exciting that was. If you ever get a chance to go to Arcade Club, that's the best one in the UK, or if you get to go to Play Blackpool, you'll get to sense a flavour of what it was like, especially Arcade Club. Arcade Club is set up like an arcade. You'll get to experience the sense of atmosphere of what it was like back then, but you need to remember back then everything was brand new, so it just looked amazing. It really, really was. And yeah, I do think it's sad now. The arcades are completely dead. I mean, I was down in Blackpool obviously a few weeks ago, didn't go into any arcades because there's nothing there at all for anybody. The only old games you get now, they'll sometimes bring out the 30th anniversary of Pac-Man, and you'll get a modern version of Pac-Man on big giant screens or whatever. And then I think there was a Galaxian game that was it was 3 big screens, you had a big gun. So they've kind of taken the essence of the game but put it into a modern game. But yeah, the arcades are long gone. Do I think they'll ever come back? Is there a viable market for them coming back? I don't think so, if I'm honest, because the fact that you can play all these games, basically, you can play them in your own home. And kids now, there's no two ways of saying it, kids now are not interested in playing these games. Yeah, you go along to Play Blackpool and you'll see kids playing it. I just noticed how much I'm slouching actually. You'll see kids playing these games, but if you were to say to them, do you want to play these games or do you want to play Call of Duty? I don't think for 1 second they would want to do anything other than play Call of Duty because, the old games simply cannot compete with the new games. But yeah, it was a wonderful time. It really was, and sadly missed. And I feel really privileged to have kind of grown up and experienced it. Really, really good. Excuse me. Next up, Panther UK. Excellent waffling as usual, Mr. Meister. Excuse me. The new Not Mini is just called C64, and from what I've read, the new joystick is micro switched, but I'll use a pad anyway. 20 years of PlayStation has reshaped my hands, I reckon. I'm surprised that sugar bloke hasn't come out with a mini CPC 464 yet. Just talking about that, Chris. I'm not sure that will happen, but you never know. For next time, if you could do it all again, knowing what you do now, would you completely miss out the Atari ST, or would you leave history as it was? Nah, not at all. Not at all. I had the Atari ST for a very short space of time, it was, apart from the sound, it was a massive leap from the C64. I remember it was a double-edged sword. I sold the C64 and I got this amazing new computer, the Atari ST, and then the sound kicked in and I'm like, this sound's crap. This sound is not as good as my old computer. So I was disappointed to lose the SID chip, I really was. But the Atari ST was the only reason I got the Atari ST was because the Amiga was more expensive. If the Amiga had been the same price as the ST, I wouldn't have got an Atari ST. Because I kind of look at both of them were virtually the same. I don't recall, the only game I can think of which never came out in the Amiga and it came out in the ST was Oids, which was the last game I ever bought for the ST. Don't know why it never came out in the Commodore Amiga. But 99% of games came out in the ST, they came out in the Amiga, and 99% of the time they were better on the Amiga, maybe better sound, a bit more colour. So yeah, if the Amiga had been the same price as the ST, I would have not bothered with the ST. I did have it for, I don't know, maybe about a year, and it was a nice introduction to the 16-bit era. Some really nice games. I don't regret owning it, but I had, as soon as I could afford to get an Amiga, I upgraded, But yeah, I do have a soft spot for the ST. It was the first 16-bit machine that I had. And lastly, Colin Jones, fantastic news on the new job and all the best for settling in. It'll probably take less time than you expect. Here's hoping, Colin. Like I says, mate, if you've obviously if you've got to this point in the video, you've already seen me talking about the job. I'm sure it will settle in. Right now, I feel a bit. I can just the way I feel at the moment on Sunday afternoon is it's the thought of going back to school after being off for weeks and weeks and weeks. It's that butterfly in the stomach, slightly nervous, sickly feeling. It's not a particularly nice feeling because it's constant. You're constantly thinking about it, but I'll get over that. Like I says, I know I'm good at my job. I know I'm a clever enough person. The job will get better. It will. It's not the job that will get better. I will just get to know how to do the job. Right now, when somebody asks me a question, I'm like, shit, what am I going to do? So I will definitely overcome that. So thanks for the good wishes, buddy. I think Sensible Software gave up when 3D first-person shooters became popular because they couldn't adopt and adapt with a small team and didn't want to sell out. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I won't be getting the C64. My future plans are the Mega 65 and the Commander X16. Main reason is I get so fed up waiting for it to be released. I bought a real C64 and the Mega 64 has a C64 mode. Fireworks, I'm 100% with you, which is why I asked. How are they still selling literally explosives to the general public these days? Professional displays are great, but there are too many idiots buying them and being dangerous. So I'm honestly surprised as to why it's still allowed. Maybe an unpopular opinion, but that's how I feel. You know what, Colin? I don't think so. I mean, looking at my dog, put it this way, he pissed on the floor on whatever night it was. He was quite literally terrified. Being a dog owner, I hate fireworks with a passion, and I know, through social media and Facebook, there are so many people agree. Fireworks, there's a place for them. Let's keep it to big public displays. I don't understand why they sell explosives to the public, because that's exactly what they are. Something else you're responsible for, me creating a second channel dedicated to the retro scene. Nothing there at the time of typing, but I have plans on becoming more active in that arena. I actually watched one of your videos, Colin. I can't remember, what game were you playing? I can't remember. I did watch one of your videos. So listen, what to do, Colin, I will actually give you a little shout out. Go and check out Colin's YouTube channel. What I'll do is I will put a link down below. So go and support Colin, watch his stuff. So good on you, buddy. You know what? That's what it's all about. Making videos is fun. So, if it's something that you enjoy, which you quite clearly do, then do it. I'm sure I've subscribed to your channel anyway, so best of luck. After that waffle, I do have a waffle question. What expos are you planning on attending next year? It's hard to say right now. Probably play Blackpool. I know I was talking to Steve of Retro on Limb, and he tells me that the play guys have asked Retro on Limb to basically do the talks again for next year. So whether I have a part in that, whether I'm asked to get involved with the talks again, I'm not quite sure. If I do, I'll probably looking to get some sort of payment back from the play guys, because at the end of the day, it's their business. And what disappointed me a wee bit, I mean, Steve from Retro and Limb's an absolute top guy. What disappoints me a wee bit is the main guy who runs and owns the play events. It would have been nice to have got a thank you from him personally, because at the end of the day, we did do all the talks for them, and according to Steve, there was actually a bigger attendance for our talks than there were last year. So a simple thank you from the guy from Play Blackpool would have been nice. You know, you're doing it for free. So I think if I was asked to do it next year, I would be looking either for payment or at least to get my expenses covered, something like that. I don't know, but yeah, I probably will end up going back down to Blackpool. I might have a look at going to. I was at Nerg this year, which I really enjoyed. That was good, and it's down in Newcastle, so it's closer. There's also the one, is it Rewind, but that's further down. Is that in Bristol or something? I can't remember exactly where it is. It's a long way for me. Excuse me, so I'll just need to wait and see. I'll probably end up back at Play Glasgow as well, because it's on my doorstep. But I do want to. I want to get down to Arcade Club next year, maybe early next year. I know I've been talking to a few of the guys about coming down. So if I'm going down, what I'll do is I'll let you guys know, and if anybody wants to try and tie up and come along, we can have a bit of a weekend with it. Maybe go for a curry, something like that. That would be really, really good fun. And finally, guys, I hope you have a nice Sunday afternoon. And as always, thank you very, very much for watching.